The part 2, this is still on the same chapter, the fall of man, but it is on mga consequences, other items. So, after we learn about the root of sin, let's go and talk about the original motivation, why it happened. Actually, the fall didn't just happen because Adam and Eve like to fall. In fact, they didn't like to fall. But this is a very important understanding, and as far as explaining this to young people, because we can understand the processes that happened before actually Adam and Eve fell. If we can see signs of how the fall happened, and we can determine that this is going to that direction, then if it can still be avoided, we could still avoid it. The problem with many people, they try to back out when it is too late to back out. So understanding the motivations in the process is so important. First, understanding the original order. The original order is that God created the spiritual world before the physical world. To inhabit the spiritual world, He created angels. To lead the angels, He created archangels. So at that point, according to Father, there were three important archangels. That's Gabriel, Michael, and Lucifer. But Lucifer is the teacher of heart to Adam and Eve. So at the time before the creation, Lucifer was helping God in the creation, and that's why he was one of the trusted. Before the creation of Adam and Eve, he was like enjoying a lot of attention from God, until the time that God created man. And if God would create the physical world and finally create man, the motivation of creating people or human beings are not like the angels. The angels were created to be servants, while man is created to become children. So naturally, God would love His children much more than He would love His servant. That is very natural, according to His plan. But also, according to the plan of God, if Adam and Eve, receiving that love, will fulfill the responsibility, Adam and Eve would grow to perfection. They would then become husband and wife. When they will be blessed in marriage, they would have children. And then they would raise up their children together with archangels, especially the three archangels directly involved in raising up the children. When the children of Adam and Eve also have children, according to Father, according to Reverend Yu, who taught us OSDP, that would be the time that God is going to provide the angels their spouses. God is going to create female angels, and so the angels would then become married. But it did not happen like that. Hindi na nahintay. So what Lucifer felt was there was a lacking, or there was a lessening of love on his part. So the first thing he did was to see the difference. So he started to compare. We're not talking about the motives and the process of the fall. So a very innocent comparison started it all. When Lucifer noticed that Adam and Eve is receiving more attention from God than he is receiving, he felt a lacking of love. And when he started to desire for more love for himself, he did not see the original plan of God, that God also wants to make Lucifer perfect. Also, God wants to bless Lucifer with a spouse, but not before Adam and Eve as the original children. So what happened was, Lucifer left his position. He did not, let's show this first. What should have happened is this. If Adam and Eve become perfect being, they received the perfect love of God, 100%. And then since God gave Adam and Eve the right of dominion over the creation, and part of the creation of God are the angels, then God would have given that love to Lucifer, what he could not receive directly from God. Therefore, Lucifer's maturity and perfection also would come from the love of Adam and Eve as the one who would dominate them. So there will be perfection of Adam and Eve and Lucifer, but he could not wait for that. He started to compare, and then he started to feel jealous. When he started to feel jealous, he wanted to receive more love to himself. He did not see God's viewpoint, and that's why he left. He doesn't want to become a servant anymore. He left his position. After he left his position, he even reversed the dominion. He wanted to take advantage of what he has, while Adam and Eve is not yet perfect, so he tried to dominate Adam and Eve instead of becoming humble to Adam and Eve. Ultimately, this is how all the fall occurred. So when Archangel started to feel that, the lacking of love, or the feeling of lack of love, he started to become close to Eve. No, it's just like a person who could not receive the vertical love. He seeks for the horizontal love. Like children who could not receive attention from their parents, they would naturally seek that somewhere else, horizontally, maybe through their friends or peers. And most naturally, people that they would find who could understand their problems are people who also have the same problem with their parents. So they become very horizontal. So when the Archangel felt like that, that means that the first relationship that was severed was his relationship with God. He talked to Eve and said, God does not love me anymore. And Eve does not understand that. But because Eve listened to the Archangel felt that he has to do something back in favor of what he received from Eve, that he was understood. So he started showing Eve things. He brought Eve to places, and napabilib niya si Eve sa kanyang mga alam. And that is how Eve started to become close to Angel in the beginning. And that was the time, this is according to one of my lecturers then, that the angel suddenly felt something different towards Eve. Because when he did not become vertical anymore with God, he could not feel vertical also to the children of God. It's like a servant who respects the children of the master. But when the servant do not anymore carry that vertical relationship, he will not also see vertical to the children of the servant, and he became so attracted because he saw Eve horizontally. And then he also felt that, why am I treated like this? I was older than Eve, I worked harder than Eve, so God is not fair. So he tried to seek that love from Eve, and Eve was giving it to him, even though he was not really intentionally doing it out of violation of God's will. And then suddenly it struck him that suddenly the Archangel felt something different that was not there before. He was starting to miss Eve. Whenever they separate, all his mind is thinking about Eve, how Eve is so attractive, how Eve is so different from him, and he is so curious about Eve. But even though for a few minutes he separates, he wants to meet Eve again. And when he meets Eve, he would say, I miss you so much. Something like that, no? Anyway, according to our lecture before, this relationship developed into something even further. No? For the first time also, when Lucifer had that awareness about Eve, because when angel was first created, there was no Eve and Adam. But when he started to have a problem with God, and he started to see Eve horizontally, he started to feel a different kind of attraction, horizontal attraction. But when he touched Eve for the first time like that, there was some kind of electricity flowing through his hands to his heart. So it's like a normal touch, but now because of the Archangel feeling horizontally attracted to Eve, there's now a feeling of some kind of electricity coming, and it's exciting to Archangel, but he knew that something was wrong. Until the accidental touching became more intentional, it became more embracing, and finally, when the give and take action of masculine and feminine, according to the principle of duality, is it to create oneness. So there's a force that actually brings masculine and feminine together. So that created the condition for them to fall, and that is called the spiritual fall. And that's why Eve could finally deny God, and the power of false love made him eat the fruit from Lucifer. Now Eve felt separated from God. He has experienced the same feeling as lacking of love from Lucifer, because as our Lucifer experienced that. And he started to desire to go back to God. But how can he go back to God? He already disobeyed God's commandment. And then he turned his eyes to Adam and saw that Adam is still very much aligned with God and can see purity. In the eyes of Eve, the purity of Adam is very, very attractive. Just like a person who's very impure can see somebody pure as very attractive. Being pure can be attractive to so many people who are impure. Anyway, so what happened was Eve started to tell the problem to Adam. Adam, God does not love me anymore, but because Adam doesn't really understand, he could not prevent Eve from doing what he's doing. And also, Eve learned so much from the archangel, and he used that knowledge to stimulate Adam. And then because Adam was stimulated, he was not very aware. Now Eve is more knowledgeable. That's why in the Bible, in the Jewish scripture, the word knowledge means sexual knowledge actually. So the tree of knowledge actually means the tree of sexual knowledge. Also the Bible sometimes uses the word knowledge for love. Now Jesus said, I know my sheep and my sheep knows me. Knowing means love. Adam knew Eve and then she bore Cain. And Eve bore Cain. Adam knew Eve again and then she bore Abel. So what is knowledge there? Knowledge is sexual knowledge. Anyway, so because of Eve now tempting Adam and Adam is innocent, while this is going on, Adam was busy swimming rivers, climbing trees, and naming animals and naming trees. So he has nothing, he has no knowledge about that. But Eve, even though she is much younger, he has something that she knew that Adam don't know, and he used that to take advantage of Adam and get Adam to come to him. So finally, Adam and Eve fell. This is the physical fall. So first it was the spiritual fall, then it was the physical fall. There was a spiritual sin before the physical sin. One of my lecturers calls it also the archangelic sin. This is called the satanic sin. This is easier to be forgiven, but this is very difficult. Especially, it has results. It has what we call lineage. So this is the motive and the process of the fall. We are actually in the position above the angel. Even the Bible speaks that we are to judge the angels. Adam and Eve were supposed to grow and achieve perfection in their manhood and their womanhood, and then they would have been blessed by God in marriage. It is during this period we call the indirect dominion that they are not supposed to eat the fruit. So the commandment is only true until they are single and not yet blessed. They can eat the fruit after they are blessed. They will be free to eat as much and as often as God will be. So God would like to be part of that first love. That is the fulfillment also in our lecture about the 4 great realms of heart. The first taste of sexual love should be with God, should be an experience of their maturity and perfection. As Adam can see godliness in Eve and Eve can see godliness in Adam, loving each other can create the completion of that godliness in each other, and that would have been the fulfillment. So the motive and the process of the fall is because of the lessening of love and also the process of the 4 fallen nature, as you can notice. So God gave man the commandment. This is not a test of faith. The commandment was actually the love of God to protect Adam and Eve from falling. That's why this is a condition that is so important. The purity before marriage. That's why God said, be fruitful, but do not eat the fruit. Perfection, maturity has something to do with sexual purity. This is an absolute principle needed to fulfill the ideal creation. Purity before marriage is practicing fidelity before getting married. If people did not practice purity before marriage, marriage is not the solution. They will just see the same patterns of lifestyle and behavior after they're married. The best way is actually to keep that purity. And this is our portion of responsibility. So what is the possibility of the fall? The possibility of the fall is because love is more powerful than the principle. That's why many people also commit mistakes, even though they know law, even though they know what is right and wrong, even if members know the principle. But they have to recognize the nature of love is so powerful to affect us. Father once described love as the most powerful force in the entire universe. Father said there's no power in the universe that can alter our direction or alter our ambition other than the power of love. I have classmates in high school who eloped and got married because they said they love each other. But when we went to college, second year, then this came back first year, and then I asked him, why? What happened to your marriage? We separated already. So anyway, that is how powerful love is. They can even give up their ambition. But why did God make love stronger than the principle? Because love is the motive and the purpose for the creation. The principle is the way to achieve that goal. The principle is not the end. The ideal of creation is to fulfill the ideal of love. Love is the glue that binds a man and a woman together in an unbreakable union. If Adam and Eve reach perfection and there's still a force stronger than love that could break them, then that would not be true love. So God wanted that if man and woman become perfect, then there will be an unbreakable bond between man and God that no power and no force in the universe can destroy. That is why God made love as the most powerful force in the universe. If something were stronger than love, that union will be forever at risk. Teaching what is right is an expression of love. 1 John 4:18, perfect love casts out fear. That is why there is a need for something more than just the principle. During the indirect dominion or the growing period, God gave them, provided them the principle, but He has to add one more thing, so that they would have the power to overcome the most powerful force. And this is commandment. And that is fulfilled through something also very powerful, human choice and responsibility. So it all comes together when we think about how the fall occurred. The principle plus commandment means also plus the portion of responsibility, which is part of the universal principle of God, it becomes more powerful than love, especially when love is still in the process of growth. There's an absolute requirement that all people must fulfill, no matter who they are, which is the model of absolute sexual morality. The first stage is maintaining sexual purity prior to getting married. Second is the fidelity in the love of husband and wife. The preparation, the best preparation for husband and wife relationship is maintaining purity before marriage. So principle talks about freedom and the fall. It is because of freedom. God gave us the right to choose. That's why we fell. So we can blame God. It's your fault, God, because you allowed us to choose, to decide. That's why man fell. But principle does not agree. Freedom gave man the possibility to fall, but it also gave man the responsibility. So that's what makes man man, his responsibility. So, if you look at this diagram, this man is free, but there's a law. It says, or there's a sign here that says stop. He can be free to jump if he likes. But if he jumps, what happens? He loses freedom. So sometimes when we abuse our freedom, that's the time we actually cause all the problems. Freedom is a word that has this word dom, which means within a realm. We are only free within a realm. Within the realm of God's principle. That's why if we try to assert our freedom beyond the principle, we will run into many problems. So therefore, God gave us freedom not to fall, and we cannot blame our freedoms for the fall. Because besides freedom, God gave also our responsibility. So freedom without responsibility is dangerous, and therefore it would lead to many problems. So freedom in the human fall. Father said there's no freedom outside of principle without responsibility and without accomplishment. So therefore it is within the realm. If we exercise our freedoms within the realm, then we can be protected wherever we practice that in the realm. We are given our freedom not to just be free. The reason why He gave us freedom is so that we can be free to act responsibly, to do what is right. We are also free to do what is wrong, but it's not the purpose of freedom. That would become license if we use our freedom to do what we want, to abuse what we want, and therefore to destroy ourselves. So the purpose of creation was lost as a result of abusing that freedom. The second one is no freedom without responsibility, as I explained. No? People who likes the freedom but they don't like to be responsible would be not according to the idea from the original principle. The word freedom actually comes, the democratic ideal of freedom comes from the Judeo-Christian concept. It's a religious concept, actually, that God had given man free will so that he will be responsible. And if you want to be free, you have to show that you are worthy of that freedom by showing results. If you want to be free but you cannot show any result, then you don't deserve that freedom. That's why there is no freedom without accomplishment, according to principle. So, because of that abuse of freedom, we see a different kind of world. It is not God's creation. God did not create hell in the 6 days of the creation. It is a consequence of the misusing of love. It is also a consequence of Adam and Eve's fall. Another result of the fall is that the influence of the spirit world in the physical world. But now, Satan, who has been in the beginning the one who tempted Adam and Eve, together with all the other people and beings who have lived an evil life, they still exact influence upon our lives who are alive today. And they work through our evil thoughts. When these evil thoughts that develop in our spirits come to our physical body and find its way in our actions, then that is the actions that create the vitality that gives more energy for evil to develop. Yeah, the more we have evil actions, the more we provide vitality for Satan and evil spirits. That's why the Bible speaks that from now on you will crawl on your belly, he judged the serpent, and eat dust the rest of your life. Dust is the symbol of our evil vitality elements from the earth that we provide our spirits when we do evil action, and therefore they live. We can also realize that in order to weaken this force is to overcome the evil actions in the world. When we are tempted or seduced to commit evil act, and we were able to overcome and do not fulfill those actions or those thoughts into actions, then we create a different vitality for our spirit. It might be tormented because it could not fulfill its desire, but this torment and indemnity becomes the cleansing of our spirit as well as those who are cooperating with us. We'll know more about that when we go to resurrection. Another result of the fall is the fallen nature. This is also called original but wrongly directed nature. We can also say that since our nature is to live for others and live for the greater good, the meaning of fallen natures is the inability to live for the greater good. The inability to see the whole purpose. When we're always focused on ourselves, thinking of ourselves, that is called fallen nature. And the first one is not loving from God's viewpoint. When Satan or Lucifer can see only what's happening to him instead of the whole plan, he became so narrow, and that's the beginning point of why he could not see God's plan. When people cannot see the entire plan and then think about what is for him, like and started to complain, lugi, kawawa, I deserve this, I deserve that, that is a fallen nature. And then the next stage of the fallen nature is we leave our proper position. We are given position to create order. We are valued not according to our position, but according to how we fulfill our position. So therefore, a person in a lowly position is doing much better for the whole than a person who is on top who is not doing his position. He has more value for the whole, so to speak. So therefore, position is important, and if we keep those positions, we have the whole value, or the value of the whole. But when Lucifer cannot see what is for himself, he didn't want to become a servant, he left his position. That's why people who are so concerned about titles and position are guilty of this fallen nature. They want this position or that position, they want that level, they want to be that. And then it develops into the third fallen nature, reversing the order of authority. Not only leaving the position, but not willing to become under an authority. He started criticizing his leader, he's saying he's better than him. or he has no knowledge about this, I have more experience, I'm much older. This is the third fallen nature, reversing the order of authority. And finally, you multiply evil. So this is the first one. Not seeing or loving as God loves. When Lucifer cannot see his rightful position, he started to be focused on himself. He wanted more love to be focused on himself. That is the first. In fact, this is the beginning when he started to compare, when he started to feel jealous, and he started to want to receive love for himself. The archangel fell because he did not love Adam. Rather, he envied Adam, who was receiving more love from God than he was. If only Lucifer looked bigger into the picture, he would have realized that God has a beautiful plan for him as well, that would eventually make him perfect, fulfilled in love, and see his position in the entire universe. The second one is when Lucifer left his position. He did not value his own position, thinking that position determines value. According to EDP, the archangel did not respect Adam as God's mediator and did not receive love through him. He did not want to receive it through Adam, so he doesn't want that Adam and Eve would be his mediator. He actually left his position. Not only that he left his position, he usurped Adam and Eve's position. By standing in that position, he developed the fallen nature of reversing the order of dominion that we are inheriting. He became arrogant and he had exploitation. The archangel claimed dominion over Adam and Eve, who were his rightful lords. This is the third fallen nature. When people are so concerned about themselves, they don't like to be under because they would like to consider that they're much better. So in the third. And finally, we have the fourth fallen nature. When Adam and Eve is supposed to be the origin of goodness centered on God, when Lucifer usurped the position of Adam and Eve, now Adam and Eve is multiplying not the goodness of God, but the evil nature, the fallen nature of Lucifer. So, they become unrepentant, accusing others, spreading lies, and also irresponsible. And we lost the three blessings, we developed the fallen nature, we had original sin and exploitation. So, we can summarize the fall as losing the three great blessings. We lost the first, the second, and the third blessing. We lost the first. That's why the Bible said in the book of John, "You are of your father the devil. Your will is to do your father's desire." We saw conflict between our mind and body, constantly, daily, and also a confused identity. And we have two inclinations. We have good and evil inclination. We develop a different kind of tradition: addiction, greed, laziness, and dishonesty. Not only that, when Adam and Eve did not fulfill the first, they also cannot fulfill the second. So actually we lost the second blessing. The second blessing is to multiply goodness and to multiply families of true love. But instead, we realize families of false love. That's why God said, "I will greatly multiply your pain in childbearing," he told Eve. "In pain you shall bring forth children," because of the fall. This was the judgment on the woman. And yet, God said to Eve, "Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you." Genesis 3:14. So, we did not accomplish, we did not fulfill. We cannot see the second blessing. Not only that, we also cannot see the third blessing, dominion over the creation. According to Genesis 3, "Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth to you. Unless you work, you cannot eat." In the beginning, God had blessed Adam and Eve with so much. But now He's saying, you have to do much more than just receive it as a blessing. That is the meaning of the loss of the third blessing. We lost the three great blessings. Another consequence of the fall is sin. A violation of heavenly law which is committed when a person forms a common base with Satan, thus setting a condition for give and take action with him. It is not just an action, it is also a thought, it is also a word. So sin is any thought, word, or action that creates a base for Satan to work. Give and take. That's why the problem with sin, it does not stay one, it becomes two, it becomes three, it multiplies. The problem with the small sin, it becomes bigger and bigger. That is the problem, because Satan works through those sins. And then if Satan works through give and take, there's more reason for you to accomplish more sin in your life. And then when we talk about sin, there are 4 types of sin according to the principle. We have, balik pa dito, no? Katama. We have the inherited sin, the collective sin, and individual sin, all rooted in the original sin of Adam and Eve. And what is the original sin? The misuse of sex, or the misuse of sexual love. So according to principle, even if we remove all the leaves, like the individual sin is eliminated, the tree will still be alive. If we cut down all the branches, which indicates collective sin, still the tree is very alive. Even if we cut the trunk, which is symbolized by the inherited sin, as long as the root remains intact, then the tree will still grow. In fact, it can grow more branches than before. So what is the best way to remove the tree or to kill the tree? To remove the root. And that's exactly what the fall of man is doing. If we dig the root and expose the root, we are killing the tree, exposing it to elements. So the best thing that we can do is to expose the fall of man. That is what's going to reveal, or that's going to expose Satan, and people will get to know him as the being behind all sin, especially behind the misusing of love. God could have intervened, and God has the power to intervene in the fall. But why God did not directly intervene? This is another very philosophical question. And Father said he did not get this answer immediately, but it took him years before he could receive this answer from God. Evil is the rock of atheism, as was explained earlier. The reason why there's atheism is because people have not been able to solve the problem and the question of evil. God is either not all-powerful, not all-knowing, or not all-good. Or God does not exist simply. Because if God is powerful, how come he cannot stop evil? If God is all-knowing, how come he didn't know that? If God is all-good, how come there is evil? So these are the 3 points that many philosophers have always used in order to say that God does not exist. Unless there's an answer to this question, we cannot actually make them believe in God. The divine principle understands God as all-powerful, all-knowing, and perfectly good. But then, again, the question of evil. Why does evil exist? There should be a reason why, despite his power, his knowledge, and goodness, that he allows this evil to exist in this world that he created. He created to be good. Did God have the power to stop the fall? Yes, he's all-powerful. Did God know how to prevent the fall? Yes, he's all-knowing. Did God try to stop the fall from happening? Yes. So why did evil exist? Why God did not prevent human beings from falling or directly intervene in the human fall? First, he will not violate his principles. God is a God of principle. If he is a God of principle, he does not change his mind overnight or because the situation calls for change of principle. The principle is absolute, and he created the world based on that absolute principle. And one of the absolute principles that he created is that man is his closest resemblance, but he can only fulfill his perfection when he accomplishes his portion of responsibility. So responsibility is part of the absolute principle. If God can see that Adam and Eve is about to fall, and then said, I don't like it to fall, so I'm going to intervene, he could have prevented the fall, but he would have violated his own principle. Right? So that's why God did not intervene, because he would like to preserve the absoluteness of his own principle. If God changes principle every time so often, he cannot be God anymore. He cannot be absolute, he cannot be unchanging anymore. So in order to keep the absoluteness of the principle, he did not intervene. Not only that, if he violated his own principle of the creation, he cannot use this principle later on pagkatapos mag-fall ni Adam and Eve. That means, by protecting the principle, even though man fell, he can use the same principle to save man. That's why the principle of restoration is based on the principle of creation. If he started violating his own principle, then he cannot anymore use the same principle for restoration. That's why God did not. It was difficult. God suffered seeing his children about to fall, but instead of violating his own principle, he did not intervene, so that he said, even after they fall, I can still use this principle. Otherwise, Satan will accuse him. Why do you use that principle? You violated your own principle. So we cannot change the rules of the game in the middle of the game just because it does not fit you. So when God saw that Adam and Eve is about to fall, he could have prevented Adam and Eve, but he would rather not. Not because he does not care, but he would rather go through another course than to lose his absolute principle. Second, so that God alone is the creator of the principle. When God created the universe, he created the universe based on principles. Part of those principles is the human responsibility, and man should follow that in order to achieve his fulfilled or his ideal. If when Adam and Eve is about to fall and God intervened, then therefore Adam and Eve will not fall. And then Adam and Eve would reach perfection. But now, the process to receive or to gain perfection, we now have to add another creator or another player. And who is that player? Satan will become the other player. For Adam and Eve to reach perfection, they have to go through the process of Satan. God, to directly intervene would make Satan therefore like another author, another creator of Adam and Eve. He became a necessary evil in order to achieve the ideal of love and the ideal of goodness. Because God does not want to have another subject. There should only be one subject, the creator in himself. He did not intervene. Because if he does intervene, he could have prevented Adam and Eve from falling. But if Adam and Eve did not fall, and then they reached perfection, the only reason why they did not fall is because God intervened. And therefore, Satan becomes naturally a part of the growing process or perfection process. So God is the author, Satan will become the author. God created Satan to become his servant, not to become the co-creator. He is not supposed to share in that position. No? Gumawa na nga siya ng problema, magiging co-creator pa siya ni God. So God did not intervene. So for very good reason, God did not want to intervene.
Yes.
To directly intervene in the fall, God must amend his original principles, then Satan becomes eternally the co-author or the co-creator of this process.
I do.
Okay. And the third is human beings' original position. Again, this is also a very important reason why God gave us a responsibility.
Yes.
So that we can actually assume that position. We are given the responsibility so that we can become God's co-creator, so that we'll have the right of dominion over the creation later.
Yes.
Okay. Inspired, no?
I do.
Saan ba ako? Wala tuloy ako. Anyway, so God, even though He did not intervene, kasi what if God intervenes before the fall? If God suddenly jumps into Adam and Eve before they ate the fall, it could have prevented them, but then that would lose the dignity of Adam and Eve carrying the position of a perfected man or a perfected woman, because they did not work out themselves their responsibility. They were supported, they were helped. No? Parang there's a teacher who would give an exam, and then the students actually didn't know, but the teacher gave the answer. Even though they got perfect grade, but that perfect grade is not something that you can be proud of, because it's the teacher who told you the answer. So what dignity will Adam and Eve carry if, just like the other creation, they were made perfect because of God? So that they can assume the position of co-creator and assume the position of Lord of creation, they have to work it out themselves. And if God intervened, Adam and Eve would have lost that dignity. So if God directly intervenes, he would violate his own absolute principle. If God directly intervenes, evil becomes part of the original principle. We will study principle, and part of the process of growth and perfection becomes evil, especially sexual temptation. And third, if God intervenes directly, the standard of true love and our position of co-creators are lost forever. We cannot have the dignity of being God's representative, God's true sons and daughters, and we don't have that position to dominate the creation. Thank you very much.